Okay, today we will be arguing for the thesis gambling is always wrong, no matter the purpose. The first thing to undertake in this debate is a definition for gambling. The two that the dictionary presents in the colloquial use are one, to play games of chance for money or bet on something, and this is the primary sense in which we're going to consider it. The second sense, which is to take risky action in the hope of a desired result, is essentially a generalized proposition using the same idea, but when we consider the biblical account, it's very clear that that is not in view if we're going to talk about a abolition of gambling for any purpose whatsoever. The Bible clearly does advocate for the necessity of taking risky actions with hope of result. If you just sort of merely consider the parable of the talents, those workers who are praised are the ones who invest, are the ones who undertake riskier action, rather than the one worker who just simply conserves everything that he is given, rather than putting it to use. And even sort of the proposal in that context, which is given as what would have been an improved action on the part of the person who buried his money, is with the bankers. So that's held up as clearly a lesser degree of desirability than actually going and investing and taking riskier action. So in that situation, it does seem to a certain degree that the degree of risk is actually a desirable thing, that you're willing to go out and work and risk and do. So clearly, we don't want to work with the definition of gambling, which suggests that any risky action is gambling. We're not using the word in that sense, but we do want to talk about playing games of chance for money. Even this definition is actually somewhat fraught if we think about how the biblical account holds up games or chance or anything like that, because clearly chance is, in a sense, saturated by everything. This is from Ecclesiastes 9:11. Again, I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. Now, clearly the force of this actually speaks to our purpose right here directly. Time and chance happen to all. Your investments, no matter how wise they may be, your actions, no matter how prudent and well considered they be, may come to an unfortunate issue because, as the Bible says, time and chance happen to all. So you have to make a meaningful distinction between sort of skill and chance within systems themselves if we're going to talk about what is a permissible and what is an impermissible action as far as gaming, which does seem to be the primary focus here. If you take sort of the stereotypical examples, casino games, craps, roulette, poker's a little bit of a squishy example, but we'll unpack that a little bit at length. They're clearly games where, regardless of the action that you take, the outcome is going to be determined by a significant random factor. And I do think that we can easily say that games like that, when undertaken for the sole purpose of gaining money, are illegitimate, are unbiblical. And I would propose this as a meaningful metric. If you look at a game and ask, could I play this regardless of whether there were any stakes involved? Regardless of whether there was any money on the table? If the answer to that is no, if you would not play roulette when there's nothing on the table, if you would not play poker when there's nothing on the table, it's very clear that you're doing this with an intent to gain wealth. And there's all sorts of verses in the Bible which discuss the intention to gain wealth, the love of money. Ecclesiastes 5:10, which is saying Ecclesiastes a fair bit. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. And from the New Testament, this is in Hebrews. Keep your life free from the love of money. Be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. It's very clear that if we desire advancement in this life, the means that we are given to pursue that advancement is work. If you look at the creation account, Adam is commanded and encouraged to work. If you look at, this is from Ephesians 4:28 reads, let the thief no longer steal, but rather him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. Now, what we're talking about is not so much stealing as gambling, but the important point here is that that which is prescribed as the antidote to gambling as the antidote to thievery is work. That is the means by which we have to advance our station and have something to share with anyone in need. So, gambling is not a legitimate path, and even if you simply consider the arithmetic of the equation, games like roulette, games that are sort of pure chance, are inevitably and always a losing proposition. And even if it's just 50-50, if it's a die roll, if it's random, it is never, you can never count on a particular result, and no amount of diligence, no amount of skill, no amount of work on your part is likely to improve that. Now, to be clear, what we don't want to say in this aspect is we don't want to say that any games that involve any degree of chance are inherently outlawed. I mean, if you just want to discuss poker for a change, poker certainly requires a certain level of skill. And while there is still a substantial chance element, the game itself has enough interest that you could be argued that you could play it simply for the game. And indeed, this is what you run into with a lot of people. They'll say, oh, I play poker because I like the game. If I win money, that's just a plus. Well, I think there's a degree of intellectual dishonesty in that. And this relates to the point I made earlier. If you took money off of the table, and you were just playing for chips, just playing for, say, the regard of whoever won, does poker retain the same interest? And with virtually everyone that I've spoken to on the matter, the answer is no. Poker isn't an interesting enough game to stand on its own that you would even consider playing it if there weren't some stakes involved, if there weren't something to potentially gain from it. So I think that we have to be careful to be intellectually honest with ourselves when we ask why we are playing what we are playing. What is the hopes that we have here? So if you are going to the casino, if you are paying money, if you are playing games at which the determining factor is chance, there are always going to be games of skill. For example, if you enter a chess tournament, if you pay to enter a chess tournament that has a prize, that's not the same thing as gambling. Yes, there is some chance in the equation, who you play against, how your matchups work, etc., but chess is entirely a game of skill. So by hard work, by diligence, by learning, your chances to win will improve, your hard work will be rewarded, and if there is money at the end of the day, so be it. But people I know who play chess want to play chess regardless of whether or not there's money on the table. So it demands that you look at your motivations more substantially than the thing itself. Although you have to draw meaningful lines about how much skill, how much chance does this activity involve. And in any situation where chance is going to be the determining factor, regardless of the decisions you make, regardless of how well you make those decisions, you are courting disaster and you are sinning. Because you are not being a wise steward of your resources, and clearly we are commanded to do so. If you simply look at the destruction that gambling clearly wreaks upon people who become addicted to it, who genuinely look toward it as a possible method of advancing, people who spend hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars on the lottery, people who sink their lives into casinos, it leads to destruction. Because it is not the means that God has blessed as a manner of us furthering our estate. He's given us work for that. And while games as a whole are not forbidden, we have to be careful to draw those lines between when we're playing a game as a game and when we're playing a game as a means for financial advancement. If we're playing games of chance as a means for financial advancement, we are abusing what the Lord has given us for how we live our lives. Games of skill, the Bible does speak about running the race. It uses that as a metaphor, and it seems to use it in a way which is approving. So there is a sense that if we discipline ourselves for the purpose of what some people might disparagingly call a game, and that there is some sort of prize associated with that, that should not be scorned. What should be looked down upon, what should be avoided, is games of chance, or chance is the deciding factor, with the aim of financial advancement. So I believe that makes the case. Thanks very much.